Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. This is a practice where we will indeed be using a chair. So I recommend a chair that can actually sort of handle this sort of activity. So not your three-legged chair, not the one that's on its last leg, one that will actually be able to do this kind of a puppy dog action with us. Always great idea to have a folded blanket. Could be the throw blanket from your couch or a folded bath towel. A couple of blocks. If you don't have blocks, then sturdy books. A yoga mat is great, but if you don't have one, a place in your house that's maybe carpeted but not too slippery will work just fine. One last prop that I actually have in the room with me today, appropriately enough for a practice where we do puppy dog, is my own dog, Tippy. So you may or may not hear from her as we go through things. Fingers crossed that we don't hear too much from her, if you know what I mean. It's always best if you situate yourself so that you're facing me. So imagine that it's the short edge of your mat facing me, and then I'll do the moving around so that I make sure you've got a good view of the poses that we do. We'll start, as we so often love to, in mountain pose. So let your feet be hip distance apart. Place a soft bend in your knees. Turn your palms away from one another. Let your chin be parallel to the ground and gaze at what we like to call our bright horizon. Ultimately, the gaze is inward as opposed to distractedly outward. And it's here that we stop so that we can start. Ideally, bring the breath in and out through your nose. Try your best to do that from now until the end of the practice. Mostly breathe with awareness. So if that means that it needs to be through your mouth, that's fine. Two more moments here, just landing. We add to our mountain with a sun salutation. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Take your hands to the tops of your thighs. And then inhale, traction, a bit of length into your spine. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape overhead. Float the arms along your side. Palms face out. Return to your mountain. Again, inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and bring your hands to the tops of your thighs. Inhale, traction, get long and spacious. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Float your arms along your sides. One more time like that. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. Inhale, traction, grow tall. Exhale, hinge at your hips, but our head never goes lower than our hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms along your sides. Inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, hinge at your hips, bring your hands to your thighs. Inhale, pause here. Let's find even more space for a few breaths. Pressing your hands gently into your thighs. Imagine that you're creating some space between your thigh bones and your hip bones and in between each vertebra of your spine. Do that without needing to lift your chin. Sometimes that kind of feels like the same thing in our bodies. And let your low belly lift so that there is some support for all this space you're inspiring. When you exhale and hinge at your hips, it goes a little bit deeper. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand with all of that spaciousness in your mountain. Situate your chair in front of the short edge of your mat, and you'll want access to the seat of your chair, so it's not an exact science. We might have to kind of move things around a little bit. That's fine. You're not doing anything wrong. This is all one big, giant experiment. We're just tinkering in our personal laboratory. So live the question, as many philosophers have said. Feet hip distance apart facing the seat of your chair. Inhale, arms out and up like we did before. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to traction onto your thighs. Inhale that traction and length. And then as you exhale and hinge at the hips, place your hands carefully on the seat of your chair. Have a little oomph in your arms. Make sure that everything is stable. Step back so that this is what's called puppy dog. It's the beginnings of a downward facing dog. A few things that we don't want. We don't want to collapse. Our elbows out to the side and scrunchy shoulders. So oomph in the arms. Imagine the inner upper arms spinning out in front of you. Like you want to make the spaciousness between your shoulders and your ears that we just did between our hip bones and thigh bones, remember? And then keep the conscious breath as we're here. Press into your hands. See if you can be really aware of the whole hand. So it's not a crinkly hand situation. 2 moments here in our puppy dog, low belly lifts to support the spaciousness we're finding in this new shape. And then step your feet hip distance right in front of your chair where it's accessible to take your hands to your thighs, and inhale, traction that length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. And then float your arms along your side, palms face out. We'll do that again. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, heart extends. Place your hands solidly on the seat of your chair. When you know they're solid, step back into your puppy dog. And I just have to share with you that here in puppy dog, I have given my dog a Kong with peanut butter in it, and the whole room smells like peanut butter right now. So maybe as you breathe, you sort of imagine that you've got a peanut butter aroma. Now really feel the oomph in your arms. Remember, we're not collapsed anywhere, not our shoulders, our low belly is lifting. And I bet you're feeling a pretty nice stretch in your whole back body, backs of the legs. Once again, step hip distance. Hands onto your thighs. Inhale, tall through your spine and out the crown of your head. And then exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Float your arms along your sides. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, heart extends, hands solidly on the seat of your chair, and then step back into your puppy dog. These are sun salutations, but I think they're fun salutations today. How about that? Now find the spinning of the inner upper arms, the uplift of the low belly, and breathe for 2 moments in our fun salutation. The aroma of peanut butter surrounding you. I hope you're okay with peanut butter. And then step your feet, hip distance here, hands onto your thighs. Inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape, thumbs to the sky. Float your arms alongside your body and really, truly take on the majesty of your mountain. It's the pose you will do most often off your mat. Think beautiful posture, standing tall out in the world. We'll add on, and you may want to use your blocks here. So you can continue to use the seat of your chair for the whole thing, or place your blocks. And we want mindful movement as we place our props. So on the edges of your mat, but not underfoot. Super important so we're not setting up a booby trap for ourselves as we continue our fun salutations. I think that would be less fun. So feet hip distance, turn your palms away from each other, find your mountain. Here in between your blocks, maybe you're not even bothering with blocks. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, traction that length in your spine. Place your hands on the seat of your chair and find your puppy dog. In your puppy dog, just do a little inventory check. So inner upper arms are spinning, low belly is lifting, our head is not lower than our hips. Now you'll step your right foot forward and your left foot back so that we're in a lunge shape. And the option to keep your hands right where they are is a great one. If you want to relocate your hands onto your blocks, do so with that idea that you're still upright enough in your spine that we're not collapsed head below hips. And also we want to keep the majesty of our mountain happening, don't we? Imagine that you are tractioning your right heel back, which is drawing your right hip back, and floating that left hip slightly forward. And you can sense that that gives you a little bit of a plumb line, a little bit of a midline to balance on. And then breathe into it here for a few moments. Remember, you can keep your hands on the seat of your chair the whole time. Now, either keeping your hands on your blocks or returning them to the seat of the chair, or maybe that's where they've been. Firm through your belly and step your left foot hip distance from your right, hands onto your thighs. Inhale, traction that length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. And then float your arms along your sides. Adding on. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs. Inhale, heart extends. Place your hands onto the seat of your chair and step back to that puppy dog. So a little oomph in our arms, a lift of our belly, inner upper arms spinning skyward, head higher than hips. Now the left foot steps forward and the right foot steps back, and the option to keep your hands right where they are is a pretty nice one. If you want, you can relocate your hands onto your tall blocks and then think head lifted, crown of the head extended, like all that space that we found in our long linger with our tractioning hands on our thighs. Swing your left hip back and your right hip forward, and imagine that that's actually a traction of your left heel, so we're building it from the ground up. 3 moments meditating here. Now, either keep your hands on your blocks or relocate them to the seat of your chair. Lift in your low belly, and then step your right foot hip distance from your left. Hands onto your thighs. Inhale, length through the spine, and then exhale, hinge at your hips and fold. Inhale, arms out and up. Thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then float your arms along your side. Great, adding on. Inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, place solidly your hands on the seat of your chair and step back to that puppy dog. Right away, oomph in the arms. No collision of shoulders and ears. Step your right foot forward. Cheat your left hip back or left foot back a little bit. Either keep your hands here on the base of your chair or relocate them onto your blocks, but this time turn your back foot flat so that your foot is all the way onto the ground, and then begin, without letting your head get lower than your hips, to think about straightening your right leg. It doesn't need to get all the way straight. Now remember how we were tractioning the hip back in the lunge? You want to traction your right hip back, your left hip forward, and you want to meet yourself where you are. That's the advanced yoga. Take in your breath and your sensations together for a few quiet moments here. Now rebend your right knee, spin on your back toes. You can keep your hands on your blocks or place them back onto the seat of the chair. Lift in your low belly, left foot hip distance from right, hands onto your thighs. Inhale, heart lifts. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Float your arms alongside you, palms face out, second side. Inhale, swoop your arms. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale your heart forward, place your hands solidly, step back into your puppy dog. Oomph in the arms right away. Step your left foot forward, cheat your right foot back a bit so that we've got our foundation. And then either keep your hands where they are or return your hands to those blocks if that's been serving you. Back foot flat, so right foot all the way flat. And then you begin to work your left leg straight. But there's no agenda to try to keep it all the way straight. You can check in to make sure that your mountain is with you. So you're extending through the crown of your head. Left hip draws back, right hip draws forward, and we take a few moments just like this. Let the sensations dance with your breath. Now rebend your left knee and spin on your back toes. Keep your hands, if you prefer them, on the blocks, or relocate them onto the seat of your chair. And then with your belly firm, step right foot hip distance, hands onto your thighs. Inhale, traction that length. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape, and then float your arms alongside you. Great. We'll add a chair pose here. Bend your knees, chair pose, thumbs to the sky, pause. So you may want a pretty wide V so that even here, just like our conversation in puppy dog, we're not collecting our shoulders into our ears. See if you can gaze at the bright horizon while we're here. 3 moments, I'll be quiet. Now bring your hands to the base of your chair and start to straighten your legs as you walk them back into one little last puppy dog that we'll do together today. Oomph in the arms, inner upper arms spinning out in front of you, low belly lifting. Now you can keep your hands on the base of your chair. We'll just step in a little bit, not all the way that we had been, but a place where we can find our way onto the ground. So you can use your hands on your blocks or on the base of the chair. And then I will move things so that you can see me. And I'm also going to take my folded blanket underneath my knees because we're coming to hands and knees. So you never want to feel like it's sharp pain anywhere in this practice, but especially things like when our knees are on the ground. The other thing is that we're not hands too close to us where it's too intense on the wrist this way, or hands out in front of us where we scrunch shoulders into ears. So you want to find shoulders right over the wrists, and then oomph in the arms like we talked about in puppy dog. Keep your toes curled under and your low belly lifting. Cat-cow is a movement of our pelvis so that we are not someone who suffers from frozen pelvis. There is such a thing. So when you inhale, a little sass with your butt to the sky, and when you exhale, just tuck your hips underneath you a little bit. Explore. Remember, tinkering in our laboratories. Inhale, little bit of a back bend, sass with your butt to the sky, and then exhale, rounding and doming. If your tempo is different than mine, great, celebrate it. This is a little bit like a sun salutation too, a little bit like a fun salutation. We inhale and arch. We exhale and round. We'll take a few more, inhaling and arching, exhaling and rounding. And then last one, inhale, arching, exhale, rounding. Now firm through your belly here in your slightly rounded position and come kneeling with your hands onto your hips. Once you are here with your hands on your hips, step your right foot forward. Kind of an interesting assignment from kneeling. Humble warrior, I like to use a block or even 2 stacked blocks on the inside of my right foot because it becomes a bit of a stretch. So take your hands on the inside of your right foot and maybe even walk your right foot a little bit more to the right so you've got some room. First, find the majesty of your mountain in your spine. So we don't want to round and collapse. If it makes sense to bring your forearms onto those tall blocks and that gives you a nice stretch, all I ask is that it be a nice stretch, not a sharp pain, and that we're not practicing slumping. So really think of our traction that we spent a lot of time in our sun salutation, and bring it here. Sprinkle it into your humble warrior stretch. Five moments of me being silent in our humble warrior stretch. We want to be conscious of our exits, just as conscious as we are in the held pose. So come onto your hands if that is something that you need to find on the way out. And then walk your right foot a little bit over towards the left. if you walked it out to the right earlier. And situate maybe your blocks on either side of that right foot. We're straightening the leg like we did in our pyramid pose standing, but this will be a little bit more of an intensity probably. Draw your right hip back, your left hip forward. Find length through your spine. Curl those right toes back. And remember that we're not rounding. We don't really want our head to be lower than our hips here either. So if you really think hinge at the hips and standing in your mountain, you're going to get a sweet sensation. 5 silent moments in this shape. Now rebend that right knee. Bring your hands onto your hips. Your blocks should not be in your way for this move, so just make sure that's true. Hands on your hips, right knee next to left knee. And then I have to kind of like, I'm going to actually stack my blocks so that they're not in my way at all for our second side. Hands on your hips. Step your left foot forward. We're setting it up for our humble warrior on this side. So maybe you step your left foot to the left a little bit. Could be that your books or your blocks are helpful here on the inside. And then find where the porridge is just right. You would prefer that it not be that your knee is super far forward, that there's more of a vertical understanding of your ankle underneath your knee. It'll actually give you a little bit more feedback and it's kinder to your knee. Maybe you come onto your forearms, but we make sure that there is no slouchy, roundy quality. The majesty of our mountain finds us here. And we meditate on this side of our humble warrior for 5 silent moments. Remember that consciously we come out of it, right? Onto your hands, if that applies. Maybe step your left foot a little bit to the right so you're a little bit more in a midline if you walked it out to the left earlier. Situate your blocks or books or whatever you're using on either side of your left foot, and then as you straighten the leg, dig the heel in and curl your toes back, and then pause here, hinging at our hips, elongating through the spine, finding a delicious stretch in the back of the left leg, but keeping the majesty of our mountain as we're silent for 5 moments on this side. Move slowly. And of course, we'll want to move our props in a moment. So bend your left knee and stamp your left foot. Just make sure that your blocks are off to the side enough. Hands on your hips, come upright, and then just swoop. Left knee next to right knee. And we'll move our props all off to the side of our mat, including our folded blanket. Slide out onto your belly. Once you're on your belly, line up your forearms so that they're parallel to the long edges of your mat. And if you don't have a mat, just kind of imagine that. You get to stretch your imagination as well as your spine. Traction your elbows towards you. Draw your chest through the gateway of your arms. Chin stays parallel to the ground. Low belly lifts. In a sun salutation, in its kind of fullest form, there's something called an up dog. And Sphinx is a little bit like that up dog. Our cat-cow was kind of a little suggestion of that too. So we take our own version here of a little bit of an upward-facing dog or a cobra, but it's Sphinx for us. Press into the tops of your feet. Let your kneecaps lift so you activate your legs. It's actually what's called posterior strength, which means back body strength. It helps us to stand tall in that mountain pose out in the world. Now lower down and make a pillow with your hands. Rest your forehead on your hands, bend your knees, and just windshield wiper gently. Slide to side with your legs. So we windshield wiper and release that first Sphinx in our repertoire. And then if that was enough for you, you can continue on with your windshield wipers or one more Sphinx pose. Tops of the feet press. We traction our elbows towards us. You have a little awareness of the forearms being parallel to the long sides of your mat. We're still not scrunching our shoulders into our ears as we're here. And then just 2 moments here. Can you lift the kneecaps with all that posterior chain strength? Back body strength. And then lower it down. We'll take a couple of windshield wipers just so we can say we did. Forehead rests on your hands if you're comfortable with that, and it's side to side. And you can feel the benefit of our back bend, but also the release. And then find your way onto your back, but take your 2 thick books or blocks. So if you come to hands and knees, I think this is going to be our easiest way to situate. Bring your blocks to either side of your mat. I don't want them in your way, but we are going to use them most likely. And then lie down on your back. Once you lie down on your back, place the bottoms of your feet together and let your knees fall out to the side. So you can see here what that looks like. Take your 2 big books or blocks and place them underneath your thighs. Snuggle your shoulders underneath you. And now it gives you a stretch, but not too much of a stretch because you have support. If this is really somehow super easy and open for you and you want to remove the blocks, that's fine. For me, it feels better to have a little support, especially because I know we're going to be here for actually a few minutes. And I'm going to give you the option to end our practice in this posture. So if you know that this kind of sounds like an interesting Shavasana, I would say blocks are a good idea. Now the back of your head rests on the ground. One more time, shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you. Snuggle in. Close, maybe cover your eyes. And let yourself let go. Option to stay exactly as you are for our Shavasana final meditation. Or carefully draw your knees together and extend one leg and then the other with your feet flopping open, and just make sure that you have moved your props out of your way if that's how you want to end the practice. And then we come into our fullest surrender. Body, mind, and spirit. Tippy's here to tell us that it's time to find our way back. She came in to give me a little kiss during Shavasana. That's pretty sweet. So move your fingers and toes. If you have your thighs on blocks, draw the knees together carefully. Move your blocks out of the way so they're not in your way as you start to find your way out. And then we could stretch in opposite directions as if we were stretching first thing in the morning, refreshed and renewed. And then gather up your knees into your chest. Carefully roll to either side. And then bring yourself to any comfortable seat. It could be a cross-legged seat. You might sit up on something if that's more comfortable. And palms up or down. See if you can take that playful puppy dog spirit with you. And maybe that Tippy inspired spirit with you out into the world as you stand in the majesty of your mountain. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.